the locks for the Panama Canal, the propeller for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, rails for the Trans-Siberia Railroad. All were forged of Pittsburgh steel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Point, your one-stop shop for all things sports, straight out of IUP and brought to you by The Pen. Brett and I here once again today, as we always are. Plenty on our agenda. We're going to hop into the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're off to a rocky start as expected. But the pitching, a little bit of a conspiracy here that we're going to talk about here, because as any Pirates fan will know, a lot of pitchers come here, a lot of potential. They come through our system, and then they go elsewhere, and they're really successful. Joe Musgrove, we're going to dive into specifically as he had the no-hitter for the Padres last week. So we're going to talk about that. Moving into the NBA, we're going to talk on the battle of the benches with the Lakers and the Nets, as ESPN said some stuff about the success of the Lakers in this game, about who was playing with their top threes. This was basically a battle of the benches that the Lakers took. We're going to touch on the West standings as well here, as we're going to see what teams have the potential to actually make noise. We touched on the East in our last episode, if you guys want to check that out, but specifically like the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, do they have a chance? And of course, the Masters, Hideki Matsuyama capturing the Masters victory. It's a fantastic feat for him, as he has really battled through this. But the thing is Alexander Schauffele, as he went into the 16th hole, basically blew his chances at the Masters, and we're going to dive into that. So bringing it all together, back around Pittsburgh Pirates, their pitching situation here, Brett. We know it's not, they've had some optimism taking a series from the Cubs over the weekend here. But the big thing is we're going to talk overall here. Now, Brett, to fill you in and fill in our audience, as some pitcher, what happens is we have a lot of pitchers for the Pirates that are not that great when they're here. They have a lot of potential, and then they just kind of leave it all out there, and then we either trade them or they leave, and then they're quite successful. And some names here that I'm sure all of you are familiar with. We can talk about Garrett Cole. He was a starter here for many years. He was quite successul. He was here during our playoff years from 2013 and 2015. Leaves and goes to the Astros, wins a World Series, as we could put quotations, some will put quotations around that. Then he goes to the Yankees, and he's the highest paid pitcher ever. Started at the Pirates, we get rid of him. We can talk about Charlie Morton, did the same thing. He left, he went and won a World Series in Houston. Now he's pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays for the World Series last year. Tyler Glasnow, he was here. He was horrible here. We trade him to Tampa Bay. He pitches in the World Series last year. Joe Musgrove, Brett, just last week. This is somebody that he was our starter last year. He was our number one last year, really prepared himself, and he leaves and he pitches the first no-hitter in Padres history. These are all pitchers that we had, and they're gone. We've traded them. They've walked. So, Brett, what do you think this is? Why are these starting pitchers just not clicking here? And it's not just, we've heard of players in all sports, change of scenery changes their career, but this is more than just, this is consistently that we've had pitchers go elsewhere. What is it? What is your take? Why did they not do well here?
Well, RJ, they're not going to play their heart out for a team that's not going to pay their heart out for the players.
It's a really good point.
Their enthusiasm's probably not there, because they know in the long run, this team's totally just going to be okay, well, this guy's not playing that good this year, so we're just going to trade him away, or he's just not going to get enough money to make it worthwhile for him to play for the Pirates. I feel like the fans are great in Pittsburgh, but the owners, he doesn't pay anyone.
And that we've seen ourselves, we're at the lowest payroll year after year. And even when we we look at Josh Bell, he turned into the face of our franchise. He was an all-star 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess. He had one mediocre season. We traded him. And, I know that people are talking about they're doing a proper rebuild now, but you need people to be your face of your franchise, even during a rebuild. You don't get rid of everyone. And so, you think that's the case, Brett? It's just that you don't think they're giving their all just because they know the mentality of the Pirates?
I feel like they're totally giving it their all, but like I feel like they're thinking about other things too. They're like trying to get out. Like they whenever you get put on the Pirates or get drafted by the Pirates, you're like, oh, well, this is a nice paycheck for a while, but other teams are better option.
Especially when they don't invest in the money to fill free agents around these young players. I mean, like I said, we're at the bottom of that payroll year after year. And when you have this young talent, if you fill some pieces in there with some free agents, and we've talked about this with the Pirates originally, if free agents even want to come here, and it's just so difficult because when you look at the mentality here, and maybe they'll turn that, the wheels will turn in a different direction as we move forward. But, as Brett said, they just know, you could have a successful season. And, people comment all the time on the Pirates social media. Oh, someone will do well. And it's like, oh, well, don't get too good. They're going to trade you. And that's the mentality that they've built for us fans, for the league. And that needs to change because we look at these pitchers. I mean, congratulations, Joe Musgrove. But that's another strike at Pirates fans to see another successful pitcher. So we will see how it moves forward. Our pitching staff now, specifically the starting pitching staff for the Pirates, have always produced pretty good relievers with, Jared Hughes, Brian Morris, Justin Wilson, Mark Melanson. You can go down the line, Tony Watson, even Felipe Vasquez, all great relievers we've produced throughout, many years, but it's just the starters. And when we have a good starter, it doesn't last. And now Chad Cole's your starter. And he was a guy that was like number 3 in the rotation last year. So big thing here. Let us know what you guys think. Brett says it's a big matter of they just know they're not going to get paid. And I agree with him there. You look at the mentality of the Pirates, you're sitting there as a player. If you have a bad season, you go elsewhere, you have a bigger chance. And, we've seen that guys like Morton and Garrett Cole that got those rings. So let us know what you guys think. We hope it's going to all turn around, but we'd hate to see some more great players leave the Pirates and be successful elsewhere. That's for sure. And moving now into the NBA, as we always do, Brett's going to give his take on what's going on here recently. And we are diving straight into what we are calling the battle of the benches. Basically, as the Lakers and the Nets faced off, and it was the Lakers that topped them in quite commanding fashion, 126-101. There was obviously no LeBron, no AD as he's in the process of coming back, no Kyle Kuzma, but on the Nets side, it gets a little confusing here because no Harden. Obviously, KD had limited minutes as he came back. Kyrie played into the early of the third quarter and then gets ejected. A lot of people looking at this game, Brett, and being like, "Oh, the Lakers they toppled over the Nets even without their top 3." But did the Nets really have their top players out in this game?
KD played limited minutes, but hey, that's still KD right there. And then Kyrie played till the third half, but we also lost Dennis Schroeder during that time too. They're not equivalent at all. Kyrie's 10 times better, but Dennis Schroeder is our best point guard. He's an essential piece of the team. Nets should have won. Unacceptable. Nets should have totally won. The Lakers only literally had Andre Drummond and Dennis Schroeder. Montrezl Harrell will get you the 10 points and a couple rebounds every single game. Very consistent player. But they didn't have Kuzma. That's their technically third option, but like it's not really a third option. But Kyrie played till the third. He should have been able to do a lot more than just keep it a close game up until the fourth. Like I said, unacceptable by the Nets. They should have totally won. They still had Aldridge, which is a great player. Blake Griffin. They have a little bit more depth too, I feel like.
So when you look at this whole super team they put together, obviously the Nets have built themselves off of many of pieces, even when some go down. But when you look at this, and it's kind of confusing to see that the Lakers won this game when they've had some woes against some teams in the West recently that they haven't won games of without LeBron and AD. But when you look at the situation, is the hype kind of really not there unless everybody's on the roster there for the Nets? Can they not really, you think, compete as well as they should unless everyone is there?
Well, Of course, whenever players are injured, it's going to be difficult because, especially like James Harden, he's a very essential piece. There's probably plays associated with him. Whenever a player goes out, someone have to fill that role. Probably doesn't know the plays that they do. They should have won though. Lakers, they've been doing terrible recently just because of their injuries.
I want to shove this your way because we've seen this happen. So KD mentions that championships aren't the be all end all. He doesn't, necessarily play just to get those championships. And I want to ask you if you really agree with this because, he hopped on that super team with Golden State. He went, with Kyrie to sign to the Nets and they built the super team. Do you really believe that from KD saying that he doesn't care about the championships that much?
Oh no, he cares. That's why he went from OKC to the Warriors and then from the Warriors to the Nets. He could have stayed with the Warriors. That would probably been the greatest option, honestly. But he got a little too sensitive with Draymond Green and a little bit too sensitive with the organization, so he had to move somewhere else. But now he's surrounded by all these other sensitive people. Oh, it's a boiling pot. It's a boiling pot.
That's a great, great take. And we hope it doesn't boil over too much because the Nets are in a really good opportunity. They have a really good opportunity to make some noise here. And speaking of making noise, our final topic here of the NBA, we're going to dive into the West standings a little bit here, Brett, because we see the Suns making some noise, chasing down the Jazz right now. Obviously, Clippers, Nuggets right in that middle, of the race right around the Lakers. But I want to take a look at this bottom piece of what we're going to see here. What's likely going to be, Grizzlies, Mavericks, and Trailblazers that fill those final three spots. Now, when you look at this West, it's much more competitive than the East. There is a, I guess you could say they're equally competitive, but there are some better teams in the mix of it's not everyone at a 500 mark. So we have the Grizzlies, Mavericks, Trailblazers. Do these teams really have a chance to really play and have a run?
The Mavs and the Trailblazers, I would hate to play them in the playoffs. You got Dame Dollar, and then you got Luka Doncic. Like, they're amazing players. You don't want to play them in the playoffs. Now the Grizzlies, on the other hand, they're still a young team developing. They're probably going to make playoffs, but they're not going to make that much noise.
And as it's kind of playing together here, because we have the Grizzlies that are hovering on that 8 spot, the Mavericks in that 7 spot. I want to kind of play this forward. So you like what the Mavericks have right now. Do you see them, theoretically, if they were to take on the Suns as it is right now, do you see them as putting up a good fight to get on to the next round?
That'd be an amazing game. It'll totally go to a 7-game series. They have very similar rosters. You have Boban, and then you have Antoine on the other end, the two centers. They're a very good matchup. And then you have Devin Booker and then Luka. Luka's a little bit more of a assist pass first player, but Devin Booker's just that consistent shooter that you need. Tough teams, but no, I could totally see that going to a 7-game series.
Wow, and that would be a great matchup then as we look forward to it. So we will see how it unfolds. So that you hear it here, everybody, that the Mavericks, Trailblazers could be teams that still make noise. We all focus on the Lakers, the Jazz, even the Clippers and Nuggets, you could say, but there's some teams in the bottom of the pack here that could make some noise. So that's our NBA takes for you this week from Brett and I. Let us know what you guys think. And a lot always happening in the NBA that we see week by week. And of course, what would it be without talking about the Masters as it wrapped up over the weekend? People would argue the biggest major that there is there in golf, and it's Hideki Matsuyama that takes home his first Masters in his first major, actually, representing Japan. And he played really well over the weekend. There was a lot of lead changes here as Matsuyama was in the mix. It was, Rose that was leading the pack at first. Jordan Spieth was in there. Will Zalatoris, he really made some noise as a young guy, only 24 years old, playing in the Masters, finished second in the end. But what we want to dive into, and a huge congratulations to Hideki Matsuyama. We don't want to take anything away from that victory, but we're going to dive into what took place here, really at hole 16, 4th round, late in the day, late in the evening, hole 16. We're looking at a par 3 here, Brett. And at the time, Matsuyama has a 2-stroke lead over Xander Schauffele, who's in second place right behind him. And Schauffele was coming off of 4 straight birdies. He's really feeling well. He is in a perfect position to make a mark here. He had a par 3 great chance to make birdie, even make par. It's a tough par 3 with a little tucked pin. You have a hillside and some water below you. And Xander Schauffele decides to hit an 8-iron. Him and his caddy decided on an 8-iron into the wind, and comes up short. And it bounces down into the water and causes him to hit his third ball as a drop, gets onto the green. He ends up 2-putting, and he makes a 6, a triple bogey. On the other side, you have Hideki Matsuyama, who ends up making a bogey on that hole. So you have a triple in a regular bogey here. Brett, this shot from Xander Schauffele costed him not only, potentially being, if he pars that hole, he's 1 stroke back going with 2 left. He finished 3 strokes under Matsuyama, and he had that triple bogey that would have theoretically tied him for a playoff. What do you think? He was talking about wind going this way and that way. You're late in the round of one of the biggest majors. You just got to hit the green, right? What do you think he's thinking going for some crazy shot that costed him over $500,000 and the Masters?
Hey, yeah, you just got to play it safe. Whenever that much money's on the line, you just got to play it safe. But it looks like you didn't do that.
Well, and this is really confusing because this is a guy that has really played well in the Masters. He finished 2 strokes behind Tiger Woods in 2019 when he won the Masters. Don't you think he would know by now these holes, this course, this 4th round? How do you mess this up? How do you make this slight mistake? Like what?
Hey,
how's that?
Nervousness gets to you. It's just a bad shot.
And and it looked like it was going to be the perfect. Well, yeah, you could say that. And it really is a shame to see this from Schauffele because he really put himself in a great position. This guy has been, hungry for a Masters. Like we said, 2 strokes behind Tiger in 2019. But nonetheless, this shot cost him over $550,000. As well as Zalatoris picks up 2nd. He finishes in 3rd. And, I don't know, we're not fantastic golfers by any means. But one thing that I will say is, when I see a pin that's tucked, I just try to hit the green. He could have 2-putt par if he just hit the green, or even 3-putt par, and you're still only 2 strokes back. So, we saw, like I said, Matsuyama bogeyed the 18th hole. It really made things close, but nonetheless, he captures the Masters, a fantastic victory for himself and all of Japan. And Xander will just have to wait for next year to hopefully make a move in the Masters. He's due, but unfortunately, he just did not make his mark there on the 16th hole. And the Masters blew open for him. All right, everybody. Well, that is everything we have for you today on The Point, from diving into the Pirates pitching mysteries to the battle of the benches to what could happen here in the West in the Masters with Hideki Matsuyama. That's all we have for you guys today from Brett and I. And as always, we will catch you next week.